For over a century, the story of the mummy has been wrapped in a simple narrative. We picture these brittle, dusty figures, their forms preserved by what we've often been told was little more than salt and linen. The popular version paints mummification as a straightforward ritual of drying and wrapping, a practice born and perfected in isolation along the Nile. But that's not the whole story. What if I told you the true secret to defying death wasn't just the wrappings, but a complex, manufactured bomb? A potent cocktail of chemistry so advanced it appears to have required a trade network stretching thousands of miles. Pioneers whose empirical knowledge of antibacterial and antifungal substances was astonishingly effective. New discoveries have completely upended our understanding, revealing a level of sophistication we never thought possible. The secret to the mummy wasn't just the wrapping, it was the science. The popular image of mummification is a bit of a dusty caricature. We see it as a macabre but simple affair. Take out the organs, pack the body in salt, and wrap it up for the afterlife. This understanding comes largely from early, influential accounts, like that of the Greek historian Herodotus. In the 5th century BCE, he described a process that sounded more like a butcher's guide than a scientific procedure. He spoke of pulling the brain out through the nose with a hook. For a long time, his account was one of our main windows into this world. And while he wasn't entirely wrong, it was a dramatic oversimplification. He told us what, but it missed the nuance of the how and the why. It presented the embalmers as ritual functionaries, when in reality they were operating in what was, in effect, a kind of ancient chemical workshop. The story we've all been told is just the desiccated skin of the real mummy. The true story, the one we are only just now uncovering, lies in the complex substances they used to coat that skin, substances that held the power to truly conquer decay. The old story goes like this. The key to preservation was dehydration. The body was eviscerated, leaving only the heart, which was believed to be the seat of intelligence. The other organs were preserved separately in canopic jars. Then, the body was covered and packed with natron, a natural salt mixture, for about 40 days. Then, the body was covered and packed with natron, a natural salt mixture, for about 40 days to draw out all the moisture. Once it was a dried husk, it was wrapped in linen. Simple, effective. But, as we now know, incomplete. That process would certainly slow down decay. But the incredible preservation of pharaohs like Tutankhamun or Ramesses III points to something more. What was missing from this picture? The answer was hiding in plain sight, locked away as chemical residues in clay pots. From ancient embalming workshops. In 2016, archaeologists unearthed an incredible find in Saqqara, a complete underground mummification workshop from around 600 BCE. It was a time capsule, filled with over 100 beakers, bowls, and jars. Many still labeled with their contents and their intended use. Instructions like to put on his head or to make his odor pleasant. Gave researchers an unprecedented opportunity to match the ancient names of these substances with their actual chemical makeup using a technique called gas chromatography mass spectrometry, which is like a molecular fingerprint scanner. Scientists from the University of Tübingen analyzed the residues. They found complex, multi-ingredient bombs, carefully crafted and sometimes heated into specific ointments. These were targeted biochemical weapons against decay. The recipes included animal fats and beeswax, which created a protective, moisture-repelling barrier over the skin. But most importantly, they used a potent arsenal of tree resins, each chosen for a specific purpose. They identified conifer resins from juniper, cypress, and cedar trees, which are loaded with powerful antibacterial and antifungal compounds. They were essentially sterilizing the body, creating an environment where the microbes that cause decomposition couldn't survive. This was chemistry, not magic. The embalmers understood that certain substances were better for certain body parts. For treating the head, they used a specific blend that included pistachia, resin, and castor oil. This wasn't guesswork. It was a prescriptive science developed over centuries. Even more astounding was the revelation that some famous embalming ingredients had been mistranslated for centuries. A substance called long thought to be was revealed to be a manufactured product. A cocktail of cedar and juniper oils blended with animal fat. Another of the 7 sacred oils, known as sifet, was shown to be a scented unguent made from fats mixed with plant additives. This proves they weren't just harvesting raw materials, they were processing them. They were creating standardized mixtures for specific applications. This was like a pharmaceutical industry for the afterlife. The embalmers weren't just priests, they were chemists and technicians working with specialized tools and a deep, empirical knowledge of organic chemistry. They knew, without understanding the concept of germs, exactly which substances would defeat them. The second great myth of mummification is that it was an exclusively Egyptian affair. Born from the resources of the Nile Valley, we imagine embalmers gathering all their materials from the surrounding desert. An image of splendid isolation. Once again, the chemical analysis of the Saqqara workshop has shattered this illusion. The molecular fingerprints of the embalming bombs told a story not of isolation, but of a vast and sophisticated trade network. Mummification wasn't just a religious practice, it was an economic engine. The embalmers were incredibly discerning. They didn't just use any resin. They sought out specific materials with the best preservative properties, and they were willing to source them from thousands of miles away. Analysis revealed bitumen, a thick, black, oily substance, excellent for waterproofing that chemical. Analysis confirmed came from the Dead Sea. But the shopping list didn't stop there. Pistachia resin was imported from the Mediterranean, and the most shocking discoveries pointed much, much farther east. Scientists found chemical markers compatible with elemi resin and damar resin. The trees that produce these substances don't grow in Egypt. Their native habitats are the tropical rainforests of sub-Saharan Africa. And, more pointedly, for damar, Southeast Asia. Let that sink in. In 600 BCE, an embalmer in Egypt was likely using an ingredient that had to travel from a jungle in Asia across the Indian Ocean, up the Red Sea, and overland to his workshop. This wasn't a one-off luxury purchase. These ingredients were found in the workaday jars of a functioning facility, implying a regular supply chain. This tells us the demand for high-quality mummification supported a trade network more extensive than we had imagined for this period. The Egyptians knew what worked best, and it seems they understood that certain imported resins had superior properties that were worth the extraordinary effort to acquire. The Saqqara workshop wasn't just a place of ritual. It was the final destination for a sprawling logistics network. The inscribed jars show an organized system. This was a business. They were importing raw chemical ingredients, processing them on site, applying them in a highly specialized procedure. The desire for eternal life was, in effect, a major driver of international commerce. The chemical genius of the bombs preserved the shell, but the goal was profound. It wasn't just about making a dried-out corpse, but fashioning a perfect, recognizable home for the soul, specifically for the Sa and Ba, which needed to recognize their body. This belief drove embalmers to be not just chemists, but artists. For some elite mummies, simple dehydration wasn't enough. As the body dried, the features would become gaunt. To counteract this, embalmers developed a technique called subcutaneous packing. They would make small incisions and carefully insert materials like linen and sawdust under the skin to plump up the cheeks and limbs, restoring a sense of fleshy volume. This obsession with appearance extended to the smallest details. Eyes, which would collapse during dehydration, were often replaced. Sometimes, small onions were placed in the eye sockets, their concentric rings mimicking an iris. While the brain was often discarded, considered mere cranial stuffing, the heart was ideally left in place. It was believed to be the center of intellect, the very thing that would be weighed against the feather of truth in the final judgment. The other internal organs, lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines were carefully removed and placed in 4 special containers known as canopic jars. This intricate blend of practical preservation and deep religious symbolism shows that for the Egyptians, science and spirituality weren't opposing forces. The Egyptian obsession with the afterlife wasn't just for humans. Archaeologists have uncovered vast necropolises dedicated to animals, literally millions of mummified ibises, falcons, cats, and crocodiles. However, this immense demand created an industrial-scale problem. Modern CT scanning has allowed us to peer inside these ancient bundles, and the results have been stunning. A significant portion are empty. Many contain only a single bone or a feather, or just reeds and mud. Was this a massive scam? Probably not. It's more likely supply and demand. These new revelations aren't coming from dusty papyrus scrolls. They're the product of cutting-edge modern science, decoding secrets that have been sealed for millennia. The embalmers were pioneering chemists. The most powerful tool is gas chromatography mass spectrometry, or GCMS. Think of it as a chemical detective. It takes a microscopic sample and identifies the ingredients, from beeswax to Asian resin. Alongside chemistry, medical imaging like CT scans let us perform a virtual autopsy. We're no longer just looking at mummies. We are reading them on a molecular level. The mummy is not just a testament to faith. It is a monument to empirical science. The people who worked in the embalming workshops were pioneers. With a vast, practical knowledge of natural materials and logistics. The story is no longer one of simple drying. It's the story of manufactured bombs, of a sophisticated chemical industry designed to conquer death. The ancient Egyptians weren't just preserving the dead. They were creating a vessel for eternity, and the greatest secret isn't a curse, but the fact that their creators were brilliant technicians. If this journey into the lost science of the pharaohs has changed how you see the past, subscribe for more secrets hidden in history. Let us know. Was it the trade, the recipes, or the chemistry that surprised you? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching.